Hi. It's my work clothes. No way. You let the president do that. I don't dress up like that.
If I have to get up, I'm going to win.
I'm gonna hang out here.
I parked in your spot. I parked in your spot, the red spot. No.
This is somebody who's not actually
Oh, so someone was parked there.
I thought it was. How are you doing? Okay. Feeling a bit rushed.
When you say video live stream,
President Bardot has had a last-minute scheduled meeting with the governor today. He's supposed to end that meeting in about 10 minutes, so we're going to delay the start a little bit because I know most of you are probably going to want to hear what he has to say. So we're going to give him another couple of minutes before we get started. And then we have a short PowerPoint that we'll go through, so that'll give him a little bit more time. But we're going to take a couple more minutes to give him some time to finish up with the governor.
I guess they posted it to YouTube.
Go ahead and get started now. It's about 8 or 9 after. That should, going through the PowerPoint presentation, that should give President Bardot time to get here. We'll have a panel up front here after the PowerPoint presentation is done, so that they're not staring into a projector. The other thing that I'd like to ask is that during this PowerPoint presentation, since there's nobody up here, hold your questions until it's done. Once we have people up here, there will be plenty of time for questions. It's not a very long PowerPoint. There are several people that the committee and that I personally want to express my appreciation to. Mary Herron's office has done an awful lot of work assisting us in putting this together. All the paperwork that you've gotten, all the mailings that you've received have come at the expense of her office and through her staff preparing all of it. The presentation today was, the paperwork again was prepared by her office and put together. So the first thing we want to do is go through this PowerPoint. Hopefully that'll answer some of your questions. It'll pretty much just cover the material that you were handed out as you came in. So the Alternative Service Committee is a group of employees, and most of us are classified. Just so that you all know that ahead of time, most of us are classified. The only ones that vote on the committee are classified. There are unclassified members on the committee, but they do not vote on any of the things that we have voted on. So those of us that vote are all classified, just like those of you that are classified that this will impact. We have our website, wichita.edu/ASC. To get more information, you can follow the minutes that we've put up. All the minutes have not yet made it up, but most of them are there. And you can also find resources to other universities that have already gone through all of this and find out what they have done and how they've handled it. The purpose was to develop a proposal, and that's all it is at this point, is a proposal to move away from the state classified service. And the reason for that is because of the way the state has handled the classified service at this point. You know that we haven't had raises since 2008, and we're looking at possibly an opportunity to move away from that system to where we're administered locally by the university administration instead of people in Topeka that have no idea what we do, when we do it, how we do it, or even see what we do. The statute that drives or allows us to do what we are is KSA 76715A. And that's, like it says, it talks completely about university support staff. And some of the key issues are the first one there, shall retain all health and flexible benefits, leave, and retirement benefits. So that said, you're not going to lose your vacation, you're not going to lose your sick leave, your retirement will stay with CAPERS. There will be no option to change to TIA-CREF. It will stay with CAPERS. The ASC shall develop a plan for a system of administration. Now this is something that won't take place overnight. It means changing university policies, developing new policies, and those will be addressed with you today. But it also means developing new pay scales, new pay plans to enhance our employment at the university. There will be no salary reduction or layoff because of this. It's not allowed by law. So if this change happens, if the vote's affirmative at the end of the month, there won't be a salary reduction as a result of it, nor will there be any layoffs as a result of it. Many of you are covered by bargaining rights with CAPE or AFT, I'm sorry. A lot of the trades at the physical plant and the police department are covered by those agreements. Nothing in this can change those agreements. The only thing that can change those agreements is if one or two of the parties approach the other and say, we'd like to renegotiate. They are good for a limited amount of time. I'm not sure what the time is. I don't know when the expiration dates are. Now here's the recommendations. I think this may be what you all came for. The very first one, and you have this in your white papers, the bigger packet that you were handed, so it goes into a little bit more detail than what is on the slide presentation. The grievance process. The grievance process will take no longer than 32 days. If any of you have been through it or are familiar with it, you know that it can drag on and drag on and drag on. Now the one thing with this 32 working days is if you have witnesses on your behalf that have intimate knowledge, first-hand knowledge of what the process is, what happened, why you're filing the grievance, you can call as many witnesses as you want, as long as they have first-hand knowledge. So if you call 20 witnesses, it's obviously going to take longer than if you call 2. So you'll need to bear that in mind. But normally it will take no longer than 32 days. The employee that's filing the grievance will be assisted by HR in preparing that grievance. And the final authority will reside at the vice presidential level. Now, if you decide you don't like what the vice president says when you file a grievance, there is still the option that you can go out and find a federal arbitration group, or you can find a labor lawyer and hire a labor lawyer at your expense to pursue that further. Layoffs and furloughs. And again, this is going to be if feasible, because it may not be feasible, but a notice for any layoff or furlough will be increased to 45 days for layoffs and 60 days for furloughs. Now, if this Friday the state comes down and tells President Bardot that his budget has been cut by 30% in the money that he receives from the state, he's going to have no choice but on Monday to look seriously at some option to figure out how to save that money. He's been in that situation before, and fortunately, when he was in that situation before, there were no layoffs. And he has indicated to us that there won't be layoffs except in dire circumstances, and the same thing with furloughs. We've changed the tie-breaking around a little bit just to make sure that it's more feasible for us and it makes more sense. And again, HR will assist any employees if there is a layoff or furlough situation. If there's a layoff, you obviously will have layoff rights. Those bumping rights will be extended across the entire university. Performance evaluations. We're changing the date of the performance evaluations, or recommending that the date be changed to March 1st from October 1st. And this is to assist in the fact that we're looking at performance-based merit raises, and in order to do that, your evaluation needs to come in at a time more appropriate for the budget process. There will be new trainings offered for those that evaluate other employees. Supervisors will be held accountable for not completing their evaluations. And the university will maintain the practice of a 6-month probationary period, but in certain circumstances, the supervisor will have the option to extend that up to 12 months. Compensation and pay. Annual increases, when available, will be considered at a level equal to faculty or unclassified staff. If the president recommends a 3% raise for the faculty and unclassified staff, we will receive that same 3% pool to be broken down across our employees. The next one, the longevity pay, is one that we will talk about a little bit later towards the end of this PowerPoint presentation. But longevity pay at the state level, there's 2 bills right now on the floor looking at doing away completely with longevity pay. Those of you that were employed after fiscal year 2008 do not receive it anyway and will not be eligible to receive it. Those of you that do receive it, the state is looking at taking it completely away. So in essence, you're looking at a pay cut. What our recommendation is that whatever your level of longevity pay is at this point, that number be rolled into your annual salary, and it becomes an increase in your salary. Most people will see a 2.5% increase in their salary based on rolling this longevity pay. So in essence, that's a step increase. A step increase is 2.5%. You will not be rolled into a mid-step pay scale. If you go into a pay raise, there are a pay scale or an area that is between 2 pay scales or 2 steps, you will be moved up to the next higher step. And we've got a spreadsheet that is available, or a slide that will show that a little bit better. All employees will be moved to a unified system of vacation accrual. Everybody will start getting, if this vote is affirmative, on July 1st of this year, everybody will start receiving 6.77 hours of vacation per year. Or per pay period, sorry. Yeah, I did that the last one on Friday too. The maximum of 176 hours per fiscal year is just that. That's what you can accrue during one fiscal year. However, you can still bank 304 hours. You'll just accrue it faster. Tuition assistance right now is limited to 5 credit hours and no other outside compensation. We've recommended that 5 hours be raised to 6 hours, and that you're allowed to receive outside compensation such as scholarships or grants. Employees receiving shift differential. Anybody working 2nd and 3rd shift right now receives 30 cents an hour for that shift differential. Our recommendation is that 2nd shifters receive an additional 30 cents an hour, raising that to 60 cents an hour, and that 3rd shift workers be increased from 30 cents an hour to 75 cents an hour. Now be aware that this is an industry standard. Second and third shifters have been getting this shift differential for as many years as I can remember being here. And it's been 30 cents for that entire time. Industry standard is much higher than that. Industry standard also pays third shift more than they pay second shift because of the difference in hours. Our second shift also starts outside the normal range for second shifters because they start so early in the afternoon. The other thing that we're recommending stay in place is for those of you that are in the trades that receive the 30 cent an hour, what do they call it, retention incentive, that is maintained. So those of you at the physical plant that are in the trades, that 30 cents an hour won't go away. Okay, this is a step-by-step, and hopefully it's understandable. If it's not, we've got an option for you to take a look at. If somebody is in a grade 21, step 14, they make $19.16 an hour, or $39,852 a year. If they have 15 years longevity, they get $600 in a lump sum, minus taxes on their anniversary date. We divide that out by 2,080 hours, which is the number of hours you work per year, and it comes to a 29 cent an hour raise. Their new pay would be $19.45 an hour. However, that $19.45 comes in at under step 15, so they'd actually go up to $19.65. So that would be a 49 cent an hour raise. Total difference, 49 cents. Annual change, $419.20. So there's the change. If you have questions about that and you would like it further explained to you, you can call 3030 and make an appointment with Mary Herron or with Ellen Abbey, and they will actually run a spreadsheet for you personally that will show your individual income with what this change would do to you. Now, if you're not eligible for longevity bonuses, it won't do you any good to go in there because there's no change in what you'll see. But this was our recommendation as a way to keep longevity for those that are currently getting it rather than losing it completely. So extension 3030, make an appointment with Mary or with Ellen. It'll be about a 10-minute appointment. They'll be able to go over the spreadsheet with you and show you individualized how it would affect you. If you want to vote on your own on this proposal, just log into mywsu.wichita.edu. You go to the faculty and staff page. And then once you get to the faculty staff page, you click on the tools link, go to the tools link, and there will be a link under tools that will say ASC/unclassified vote or something along those lines.
Classified/USS.
Classified/USS vote. Once you vote, you won't be able to get into that link again. You'll get a page that says you've already voted, sorry, I can't do it again. This will be a totally online vote. There will be no paper ballots sent out to anyone. So http mywsu.wichita.edu. Faculty Staff tab, and then Tools. If you are voting or don't have access to a computer on a regular basis, these are the times that we'll be providing laptops and assistants to log into the computers. The Student Government Association will be monitoring these sites at these times. So on April 30th, the first day of the vote, 9 a.m. to noon in RSC 142. On that same day from 1 to 4:45, the Physical Plant Conference Room. On Thursday, May 1st, 8 a.m. to noon, RSC 256, and again, 1 to 4:45, the Physical Plant Conference Room. On May 2nd, 8 a.m. to 11:45, RSC Room 240. Now, remember, from 8 a.m. on April 30th until 12 noon on May 2nd, you can vote at any time if you have a computer at your desk, if you have a computer at home, if you have access to a computer any place besides work. All you have to do is log in and go to the MyWSU, and that voting will be available. We're going to go ahead and leave this slide up while we make our presentation so that you can see those times. Kevin, did I leave anything out, or did I cover that? Have I left anything else out? Okay. We'll leave this up, and if we can get the panel to come on up, we'll go ahead and open for questions. If you have anything specifically for President Bardot, I would expect that he'll be here shortly, so hold those questions for him until he gets here. None of us want to answer for him. There will be 2 roving mics that will be up and down. Please wait until you get a microphone. We are live streaming this on the internet, and the folks that are watching this on the internet will not be able to hear you if you do not have a microphone. So please raise your hand, let the ladies know that you would like a mic, and then wait for your question until you do have the mic. Thanks.
Hi, Randy. Last meeting, you stated something about KU is being changed from the university support staff to unclassified by the president.
That's a direction. Okay. That's a direction that their HR department is going, and they're doing it only so that they have one set of employees to oversee, rather than 3 different classifications with faculty, unclassified staff, and university support staff. That's not anything that has to do with this particular move. There's no intent by this university to make any kind of a move to take us to unclassified professional status.
Correct, but that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
Their president decided to change them from university support staff to unclassified status.
Somebody up there made that decision. I don't know if it was the president or HR. I'm sure the president's supporting it since it's being done.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to add to that right now it's an option. If you're already employed there, it's an option to change. If you don't want to, you don't have to. If you leave though, when they hire somebody else in, it will become that way.
Thanks, Renee.
Can you explain what some of the other schools have done with their votes, which schools have or have not?
The other 5 region schools have already voted to make this move. KU did it about 10 years ago, and in the last 6 months, the other 4, besides us, excuse me, and including the KU Med School, have voted to make this move. We're the only ones that have not yet. Are most of your questions going to be for President Bardot? If so, if we can take a break until he gets here. I know he was pretty heavily questioned on Friday, and we want to make it so that you all know what's going on in his mind. So if you're comfortable, if there's no questions except for President Bardot at this point, and there may be some later, if there's no questions except for him, we'll go ahead and take a break. These lights are hot. We can change them around. Maybe they can point them your way. So. But we'll go ahead and take a break until he arrives, if that's all right with everybody. Hopefully you've had a chance to look through some of the paperwork you've got. Has there been any questions come up based on that paperwork that you can ask of us before the president gets here? Okay, the president, we're coming up, Ryan. The presentation that was given on Friday, if you want to see that, to see if there was any differences between then and now, the PowerPoint presentation is exactly the same. What I've done with some of my comments is modify that to meet some of the questions that were asked Friday. If you'd like to listen and see Friday's presentation, it is available on YouTube and it is available online. What's up, Brian?
Randy, my question would be, if it's a yes vote, when and how would it be implemented?
The implementation part is the tough part because we'd have to rewrite job descriptions and we would have to do some sort of a market study to look at salaries that are local so that we can do some shopping around to increase, hopefully, most everybody's salaries to bring us up to market value. And that would be a process that this committee would slowly turn over to the classified Senate, which would then become the University Support Senate. And they'd work with the administration and hopefully supervisors and other people across campus to get job descriptions redone. Until that process happens, we'd still maintain the same pay scale that we currently are on. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Randy, based on that last question, I wanted to ask, why didn't we do all the studies and things first before we have to take a vote to give something up? And then wait for it to be created?
That's not the law, the way the law is written. The law says we come up with a proposal, you vote on the proposal, and then everything else is changed after that. And every other school's done the same thing. It's not something we have control over, it's just the way it's written down by Topeka.
Is the standby pay the same? I didn't see it referenced in
The which?
the standby.
Is that the 2 hour or $1 an hour, $2 an hour on pagers?
Is that still?
That'll stay the same. We haven't made any proposal to change that.
Okay.
If we do find out that we are all for getting raises, which yay, that would be awesome. Where would that money come from?
The money right now, and this goes back to what the president said on Friday, so I'm going to take some words out of his mouth. Right now, the university is paid about 20% of its budget from the state. Any increases that come into your salaries from this point on, and would happen no matter what, come from tuition. And tuition and fees. So, and then there's also other things that the university sells, copyrights, stuff like that, that it would come from that kind of money.
Randy, that 20% of the budget that you're talking about, can you elaborate a little bit more on the purse strings that are connected to that? Like, what will change if we go to university support staff? Who will then be in charge of deciding where that money goes? Because right now the state says who gets what, right?
Well, that's not a question I can answer. Maybe the president can answer that when he gets down here, or we can have Ellen address it. Just keep it in mind, Esau. Okay. President, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any questions? Oh, okay.
Sorry. Well, I guess President Bardot may be the person who can answer this, but Randy had just said something about 20% of the budget comes from the state. And I wanted someone to elaborate a little bit more on how money from the state is connected to control and purse strings in the sense that the state can basically, because they give us that 20%, say who gets what raises and what will change about that when the university comes in control of that.
Sure, thanks. Two things that are important to understand. State control is based on law and the appointment of the board. This happens to be something that I studied way back in the dark ages, but generally speaking, they could give us zero money and still keep control of the university by the nature of how we were formed. So there is no relationship between budget and state control. That's a separate question. What the state did was, a number of years ago, it separated out those folks who were university employees from those folks who were state employees. And so what we on our campus call the faculty and the unclassified staff were put in university as university employees, and the classified staff remained state employees. Because the other two categories of people who work on this campus are university employees, then I have the right to go to the Board of Regents and recommend salary increases to them and to promulgate those salary increases. Because the third category of person who works on this campus is an employee of the state that is located on this campus, then that, and those are all of you in this room, that category of employee has to rely on what the legislature and the governor do for all other state employees. So when, if in fact this vote is to separate from the state, then you would be under the same rules as far as local control of raises that the other two categories of employees are, if that's helpful. But as far as state control, that control is manifested by the laws that created the university, and that level of control doesn't change. If you change your vote, that level of control doesn't change. What changes is our ability to manage the budget and manage salary increases.
George, did you have one earlier?
Are we in fact voting for a proposal or for separating from the state? If we're voting for a proposal, I would like to hear back from the administration what they accept or don't accept from our proposal before we separate from the state. If we're voting to separate from the state before we know how much of our proposal is going to be accepted, that seems unwise to me.
The proposal, as written, I think the last version of I saw, there was one error in the paper and there was one error on a slide. But with the exception of that error, I believe the proposal as written is what we will put into policy. We may find as we go through this process that something got missed or something got left out. That can always happen. And if it does, we'll work it through. But I met with the steering committee at least twice and asked them to make sure that the finances, that Mary Herron was comfortable with those, and she was, and she's confirmed that to me. So I'm comfortable that the proposal as written reflects my intent of, if in fact this vote goes to separate, that is what will happen.
There is one error on these white papers that you have, and that was brought up on Friday. If you look at page 5 under compensation and pay, down under the section that's entitled vacation, the very last line that is in there that says allowances would be made for selling hours back when vacation is maxed out, that line needs to be struck because that won't be happening, and that's not part of our recommendation.
Thank you. Another question is on holidays. Will we fall under the current university holidays such as Veterans Day? Will that be a working holiday? Will that be time off?
Yeah,
It's one of the things that I can't think of.
It will continue as is. It's a working holidays. Veterans Day is.
Okay, so if we would go with the state, we would be working that day.
You're with the state right now, the civil service
with the
employees.
university, I apologize.
Right.
If we separate it from the state, then we would be university employees and we would be obligated to work that day.
I believe that's something that we're going to have to work out as well. On Veterans Day, what we do is have staff, the essential staff, work on that day. Non-essential staff, that's something that we have to put in policy. So I can't give you a definitive answer today.
This question is for whoever wants to answer it best, but under the current state system, is there a specification or guidelines as to the number of employees to a certain ratio, or is there anything affect how is that decided, and is that subject to change?
Yeah, no, there are no state standards regarding how many people have to be employed in any type of job or any type of appointment, or how many people have to be employed at all. None of that is, to the best of my knowledge, in any document that the state has. The way we make a determination on allocation is that we look at what's happening in the institution, and we make judgments on the amount of money that we have, and set priorities for hiring based on where the areas of greatest need appear to be and where the greatest problems appear to be. And so, for example, if we increase the physical plant square footage of the university by adding university-owned buildings, then we're obviously going to have to add people to manage the physical plant by the nature of it. If we keep our same physical plant but have a great number of increase in students, then most of the funding will go to fund faculty and direct support staff for students. So it always is a balance, but those judgments are local judgments. They've always been local judgments, and they will remain local judgments under this proposal.
We do have a question that came from online from our live stream. The question is, when would the 3% increase take effect, and when would the longevity take effect?
Go ahead, yeah.
The answer for that would be for FY15. The first day of the fiscal year, as far as the payroll is concerned, is June the 8th.
Family behind you.
I wanted to clarify that Veterans Day, the registrar sets the schedule, and if they determine classes are to be taught on that day and not have a day off, then the university remains open because students are in session or classes are in session.
Right, that's not quite how it works. The registrar actually doesn't determine when classes are going to be taught. The classes are determined based on policy of the university as to when we feel that we can best serve our client in the student body. And if we are going to have students on campus, then there are certain operations that one would anticipate being open to service those students. And again, that has nothing to do with whether you remain part of the state or do not remain part of the state. That's a matter of providing service to the client that we have in a responsible and reasonable manner. I would anticipate, in terms of as we're moving forward, we are in the process of implementing a one-stop, which is a virtual way that students can get access to almost anything they need. And if, in fact, that one-stop comes up as I anticipate it would, and if offices that we're currently asking to stay open until 7 are willing to have the people in the one-stop actually make the judgments, then I would anticipate that those offices would work normal business hours. If, on the other hand, they are not willing to let the people in the one-stop make the judgments, then they're going to need to be there to make the judgments. So This is a moving target as we are moving into different educational markets. But the bottom line is the registrar doesn't make that determination. The registrar tells us whether or not we have space available and where individual classes can be taught. But those determinations are made by university policy and then by the individual deans in compliance with that policy.
If we move to university support staff, will we then be under annual contracts like unclassified staff are?
No. No, unclassified staff have a very different relationship with the university. I am an unclassified person, but I don't have an annual contract. I have an at-will notice that at any point after a vote of the Board of Regents, the chairman of the board could tell me I'm done that minute. I don't get 30 days, I don't get a year, I get to go clean out my office, or maybe not even get to clean out my office and leave. So there's a different set of rules depending on the nature of your job, but you would not be under that annual contract. Emily, here's yeah.
I didn't come to the Friday meeting. Somebody said something about a 3% pay increase a minute ago when they're asking questions. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Right. What we're doing is I am recommending to the Board of Regents that they accept a 3% pay increase for Wichita State employees because that funding will have to come from student tuition. And otherwise, I wouldn't necessarily have to go to them, but I have to change I have to get the funds to do the raise. I don't anticipate, given the level of level of tuition increase that we will be requesting, that this should become a major problem for the regents, though I'm not going to try to speak for them. They have given me no indication that what we're proposing or what we're talking about would cause them heartburn, and so I'm assuming that they will approve it. The case that I'm making and that I have been making with them is that if you look at what we have been asked to accomplish as a university, that our salaries don't mesh with what other universities who have been asked to do the same kinds of things are paying. And therefore, I need to be able to continue to give raises to our people until we can get those salaries more in line with where the market ought to be. And so that I intend to keep doing. I guess any year they can tell me to stop, but my intent, as long as I'm president, is to continue moving toward that goal.
And that 3% is above the longevity, right? That's above the money being rolled into our salaries from the longevity.
That's correct. What you're receiving now in longevity will be added to your base pay, and then the 3% will be figured on top of that.
We have another question from our live stream. The question is, how would supervisors be held accountable if they fail to complete an employee's review?
Yeah, this is something that has come up now in 2 sessions, and it is of great concern to me. It's really important, and if anyone in here is a supervisor, please carry this to colleagues. It is the fundamental job of a supervisor, above all else, is to help the people who work with you understand whether they are doing a good job or not doing a good job. And so if you're failing to evaluate them reasonably, or you're failing to evaluate them at all, you're failing in your most fundamental performance. I am evaluated each year by the regents. I evaluate the vice presidents, they evaluate the people under them, and we anticipate that the entire university will continue to do that. If we are finding that people aren't able to carry out their most basic duties, we will look at that. We'll try to train them, and we'll try to help them, and we'll try to do a better job of it. But in the end, it is the single most basic duty of a supervisor to make sure that to the extent you can, you help the people underneath your responsibility understand whether or not they're doing a good job and what's expected of them. And so I anticipate that that will move forward and that we will continue doing a better job of that as a university. I'm not going to tell you there will never be a mistake or never be a problem. That simply would be false. We're dealing with a lot of human beings, and I learned long ago that human beings, including me, are fallible. And therefore, it doesn't mean we won't make an error, but we will continue to improve that process so that we assure that to the extent we can, that people are being evaluated fairly and that there is a responsible way of dealing with it if they are not.
On the keeping the supervisors accountable, what you've talked about, what role will human resources play in that? How will their role change, and why is it that they can't do it now, that they will be able to do it later?
I'll do my best, Esau, to answer that question. Our role as human resources will be to maintain communication with monitoring the evaluations as we receive them. So we will be a record keeper of who has and who has not completed those. We also will keep those evaluations a part of the employee's official file. One thing that we will be able to be, in addition to that, is maintaining communication back with the supervisor's supervisor, those who are not completing those on a timely manner. And with President Bardo's and other Vice President administration's support, they will be able then to set clear expectations to their direct reports, and it funnels down line that if the expectation is to have supervisors complete evaluations and their supervisor has that expectation of them, then they will be evaluated accordingly on their evaluation. So therefore, human resources will be feeding the information back to the managers of the individuals that are not completing their evaluations timely.
What's impeding that process now? I mean, why do we need to become support staff in order for that to be instituted? That seems like something that should already be done.
We currently are doing that, Esau. What I think the fundamental change here is President Bardo is communicating the emphasis in supporting this initiative moving forward, and so now, quite frankly, when the President speaks, we'll have far more people listening than rather when HR starts speaking about that.
Well, one of the things I think is really important as you think about this, whatever your vote is in the end, as you think about this. We are a university that is working now and has been since I came back on alignment. There are certain things we're trying to accomplish as a university, and those things are very clear. They're out in our strategic plan. They're there for everybody to see. There's nothing secret about it. And so what we're trying to do is align the institution more and more closely with what we're trying to accomplish. That means budgeting to do so. It means evaluating. It means having goals and objectives. It means assessing where we are and recognizing if we aren't successful at something to find out why and to make it right. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing as an overall university. That was the purpose of the strategic plan. It's the purpose of looking more closely at our finances and our costs versus other people's costs who are trying to do equivalent sorts of things. It's the purpose for creating the innovation campus. All of these things are working at trying to align the university to move forward. We can't align the university if people don't get rewarded for doing a good job. We can't. At the same time, people who are just coming in and putting in their time and only doing the minimum to keep from being fired, there's a big difference there, and I think we all know that. One of the things that used to drive me crazy is I'd work really hard and the guy next to me would do the minimum necessary to keep from being fired, we get the same raise. That drove me nuts. And what we're trying to do is to make sure that continuously we're going to continue to realign this university to make sure that what we're trying to accomplish is being supported throughout the university. And that doesn't mean everybody has to agree to everything. That isn't the issue. But you can't have success if people don't know what their job is, if they aren't evaluated on that job, and if they didn't know up front what they were going to be evaluated on. And so that's what we're going to try to continue to work through and to continue to do a better job at. This is never going to be perfect. We're all human beings, but we're going to continue to move down that road of alignment. It was what I said when I came here and interviewed. It's what we've been doing, and we're going to continue doing it.
Along that same line, One of the proposals is to change the evaluation period from October to March, if I understood that right. I assume that we'll stay on the same fiscal year as far as pay increases and such. By changing that date for the evaluation, are we cutting it awful short for maybe rectifying discrepancies that might affect somebody's pay?
I think that you're asking a futuristic question, and the answer is I'm not sure. One thing that the committee talked about pretty intensely was the time frame in which grievances and appeals should be heard in the expeditious manner in which their intent and proposal is written as such. So if you consider that and then the evaluation proposal, I believe that there is a system that would allow a timely evaluation to be given and a timeliness for a budget evaluation if raises are available.
And if for some reason that process took longer than the first of the academic year or first of the fiscal year, then what you do is you make, if in fact it was found that there was an error, then you make the correction of that error retroactive. I've done that since being here on a faculty position, in fact, having to do with a promotion, where it was clear to me that the person had not been treated fairly, and we made the promotion retroactive to the date he should have been promoted. So I think the issue is one of the timing for almost everybody will be appropriate. For those people for whom their appeals, their March gives you time enough for normal appeals. If something continues on and a person wins their appeal, then we will make the pay retroactive to the date it should have been given.
Is it at this point at all possible to remove the wording at the top of page 5 that says consider and just have it say at the level on salary increases? Or are we past the point of no return here? I personally am just kind of uncomfortable with consider because I tell my 7-year-old I will consider things sometimes, and we all know what we really think.
I tell a 7-year-old that too, but we can do that. If that would make people feel more comfortable, yeah, absolutely. This is not set in stone yet. It won't be set in stone until everybody votes. So if that's something that everybody would be more comfortable with, is taking to be considered out, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I have no problem with taking considered out. I think the fundamental question is if in fact everybody works for the university directly, then the general salary increase applies to all classes of people. It is possible in any given year that there would be a market adjustment to a particular set of individuals based on changing market conditions. If so, I would notify everybody of that. It would not be anything secret. I would simply say, here's the general raise, and this class of folks or these classes of folks are going to have an additional salary increase to account for changing market conditions. Because we've hired people and now we have salary inversion or whatever the issue is. I think when you're talking about people's pay, secrets aren't helpful. And therefore you try to make it as clear as you can. But generally, I don't have any problem with the word consider being gone. It is strictly a matter that if we have a general salary increase, the general salary increase will apply to all employee classes. And then if there's something special, we'll deal with that separately and by notifying people we're dealing with it.
We have another online question. This question, when the market study on wages is complete, how long will it be before wages brought to a level of equal, or excuse me, how long will it be before wages are brought to a level equal to the outside world?
Well, I'll tell you, if I could answer that question, I'd be rich. I don't have a straight answer for that, so I won't try to give one. We're dealing with a lot of unknowns right now in terms of what the future budget of the state will look like. I'm providing data to the state that I don't think it's seen before in terms of how universities function. I think I just bring a different background and therefore have some different looks. This has not been a real topic of conversation for this university, to the best of my knowledge, on an ongoing basis. And so we're going to continue moving down this road. I anticipate asking for substantial raises each year. I don't know what substantial is. I don't know whether the political climate will allow 1% or 5% or something in between. I don't know. And so what we're going to try to do is to go to where I feel I can get the next increment and keep moving. If enrollment increases at the level that we think it could, then there will be some funds that we can use to address particular inequities, and we'll try to do that as well, but we'll do it in a very systematic way involving HR, involving the vice presidents, involving the three senates. There's, again, nothing hidden here, nothing secret, there is no reason to. But those will be the source of revenue. So if we can convince the state that they need to help us, we'll move faster. If we have to do it off of tuition and enrollment growth, it'll take a longer period of time. But we are going to keep banging at it.
I actually have two questions. The first one may be easier. On the first 3%, on the 3% raise you're asking for now, are we going off of current evaluations, or will everybody just be considered satisfactory the first time around?
At this point, the proposal would be if that 3% was granted and you vote affirmative, then everyone would receive the 3% raise for this year. Going forward, then it would be merit-based, based on everyone's evaluation.
Okay, and my other question was, if you're doing market research for the salary of positions, would any salaries ever be lowered?
No. I wish we had a problem that our people were paid so well that we had to worry about that. I don't know of any class of employee or any job category that is so above market that would become an issue. If it did become an issue, we would probably deal, well, we not probably would, we would deal with it in terms of new hires rather than current employees. But I just have no, I can't even imagine where we have that as a possibility right now. But you know, I guess anything's possible in the world. But no, I wouldn't see that. I would see that more you handle it with the new employees, where you start them at a different rate than your current employees. Hey, you just sort of stay there.
Is the seat next to you open?
Yeah, you can just sit down.
Yeah, you just want to sit down here. Okay, now you guys made me forget exactly what
But have that steel trap.
This is nice, isn't it?
Okay. Actually, I really did. And I forgot. Oh, the shift differential. At the beginning, you talked about the trades and the 30 cents. Can you go over that again, what you were explaining at the beginning? You're still saying essentially that second and third shift will have an opportunity to get the increase for the shift differential, but there still won't be anything for first shift at this point, right?
That's right. Right now, shifts are being paid 30 cents an hour difference. I mean, second shift gets 30 cents an hour for working second shift. Third shift gets 30 cents an hour for working third shift. If you look across the nation, industry standard has a little bit more money, actually quite a bit more money. And there is a difference between the amount that second shift gets and the amount that third shift gets. And that's an incentive for them to work second and third shifts. Our concern is that the shift differential on this campus has not been raised or changed in probably over 30 years. It's been the same since I've been here. So we want to give them a little bit more incentive to work those weird hours. And our second shift, as I stated earlier, begins at a different time that a normal second shift would begin, because our custodial staff comes in, most of our second shifters come in, our police department comes in at 3 o'clock. Second shift generally across the nation starts at, what, 5? Or later. So we're paying them the shift differential because they're working odd hours, and they're getting it now. We're just trying to increase that to bring it up to a little bit different, or to be a little bit more market value.
Okay. And how is the market shares determined?
How's what? I'm sorry.
How are the market shares determined?
The market value, just an internet study.
Just a simple internet study?
Yeah, you just do a search on the internet and it'll show you in numerous places what people are being paid. We have a lady in our office that when she was 19 and she's over 30 now, got $1 an hour working a second shift at Dillon's.
Right. Well, I guess the question is that how you guys plan to determine it, or what type of study is going to be done to determine that?
Are you're talking the market study or the shift differential?
The market study. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. The market study is going to have to be done locally, based on local salaries. That's where market studies are done traditionally anyway. We'd be looking Wichita, not Johnson County or Kansas City or Topeka.
Okay, but I mean, is that done by an independent committee, or is it done by
It won't be done by somebody on
Wichita
campus.
State?
We're going to have to figure out where the funding would come for that, and it would probably be done by a consultant.
Okay, and last, I'll shut up after this one. But as far as the student government being the ones that are helping with this, are they going to be the ones that are helping people log in and things, or are we supposed to accept them as the impartial judge?
They're not going to judge anything. They're only there to assist people that are having difficulty logging in.
Okay, because you remember when we asked for a paper vote and then we wanted someone independent to oversee the vote? I'm not really seeing any of that.
Okay, here's what will happen with the vote. When you log in, the system will verify and drop into a database your WSU number to show that you've logged in. When you vote, that WSU number will be completely stripped from the vote, and your vote, be it yea or nay, will be put into a separate database. And within minutes of the vote being closed at noon on Friday the 2nd, we will know the results. And those votes will not be tied with any WSU numbers. David Wright, the Vice President, the Vice President of Academic Affairs, his office is handling the vote. But the Student Government Association is only there to assist people in logging in that are having issues, not for any other reason. And the vote is being completely tabulated online, or not online, but by a computer.
Okay.
Nobody is physically.
Will we have access to see that as the vote is going on?
I don't know.
Or just at the end, like, you guys bring us the results?
We haven't addressed that, but we certainly can.
Okay. Well, because I guess that was just a concern of mine, that we had asked for a paper vote and we asked for an independent source to oversee the vote, and I didn't see the consumers of Wichita State as an independent or impartial person to be judging whether the vote was fair and everything went smooth. So just wanted to question that.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question. I appreciate the market value, but some of us are in state-defined positions and descriptions that aren't really what we do here at WSU. But our directors, in my case, previous directors said, well, this was the best fit that we could find for you. So I really want to be evaluated for what I really do in the market. Is this new proposal taking this into consideration?
Yeah, one of the things that is very different about the process when it's an internal process is that we have a great deal more control over how we write descriptions. You have to be fit into a system that has to fit the corrections folks, the transportation folks, the economic development folks, and that's not the case for the other two classes of employees. And what you do instead is you write the job description based on the nature of the work being accomplished as it fits within the institution. Now, we have step systems and all of that. You still have to figure that out. But that's a very different model, and there are ways we can make that work where there are panels of judges making determination if people think they're wrong, and we can kind of we can work that all through as we develop this process. But I think the key in the end is that we aren't stuck with whatever it is some outside entity thinks we are. We can pretty much make a judgment internally about how we align our positions and how we align then the characteristics of the people we need to fill those positions. So I think that's much more healthy and helpful, and in the end gives people an opportunity for growth that you don't have when you're in a straight civil service system. There are advantages of a straight civil service system. My dad worked for the U.S. Civil Service System as a personnel officer, so I've known about these since I was a little kid. There are advantages, there are disadvantages, and I think one of the advantages of not being is it gives you greater flexibility. So.
I was just curious as to who is going to be writing the job descriptions. Will that be at the individual offices? And then also, is there going to be a salary range? Like if you're working in industry, you might start at this salary and you're within a certain range, or will it be more like the step system that we have currently?
You will be the employee will be writing their own position description, and as far as the salary range, we haven't made that determination yet, but you're right. What we'll be looking at is your qualification, your education, and experience when we make the determination of what your salary should be.
We have one more over here in the back. All the way up at the top.
I'd like to know what you guys are going to do about the inclement weather. Any incentive for us ones that come in when everybody else is at home?
At this current time, the committee has not made any recommendations to change the inclement weather, although I will say during many of the different committee meetings, we did uncover, as an HR professional, I heard that there were some supervisors administering inclement weather pay different than what the intent of the policy and the way the policy is written. So one thing that HR committed to do was to try to assist and provide training to educate supervisors more clearly on that particular part of the policy and the way that it's written to be able to compensate employees appropriately.
Something just that I would like to say, just in general, regardless of how the vote goes. We have a classified staff senate on purpose. And if there are things that are being implemented in your area that don't follow policy, let the folks in the Senate know that. If you can't get heard other ways that you feel either comfortable letting folks know, or if you feel like you're kind of being blocked, we don't want people to be mistreated. Again, whether you're civil service or not civil service, we don't want that. And so if we're not following something, we're not doing it right according to our policies. Now you may not like the policy, I get that, but if we're not doing it right according to our policies, then let your senators know that, because I don't want that to happen. That's just wrong, and it's not the way this university should be running. So we can always talk about whether a policy is a good policy or not. But if a policy is in place and it is not being followed, then that's not appropriate, and you should not pay the penalty for that.
Hi, will there be a cap on how much a department can make? I mean, for an individual in each department? Will that be for everybody, like say in the physical plant, or does each department figure out what the max is that a person can make coming through there, since if we're going to go to the merit raises, or is there not a max on that?
I think that's an answer that you have to take a blended approach. When we get into the study, if you vote affirmative and we begin writing position descriptions, each position description will have to be assessed a salary range. So yes, particular positions do have salary ranges. And if we develop a pay matrix, then that salary range will align appropriately in that pay matrix. So there could be individuals that max out, so to speak, in a pay matrix. Particularly though, as you look at this year, if you were to vote affirmative and the regents bless President Barto's 3% proposal, we have already run the numbers and there is nobody that would max out with a 3% salary increase this year.
We have another online question. This question states, is there the possibility of the Board of Regents rejecting all or part of the white papers? If they do, what happens then?
Again, not trying to speak for a group of people that I don't sit on and don't control. I think the white paper as written is very much in line with standard policy. And what they're going to want to understand from me is, do I feel like I can finance it as written? And that's why I asked Mary to look at it in detail, and she assures me that we can. There is nothing in the proposed policies that I can see that would raise any kind of a red flag or any kind of an issue. So I think the policies are pretty clear and are ones that I don't see the regents questioning. That would be a very unusual act for them at all, but I just don't see anything in this policy that would lead them to do so.
We have a handful of questions coming from the same user. Oh, no, sorry. My apologies. Just one. Are you sure? The question is, what about the trade certification pay? If I have a journeyman's mechanical, will I be compensated?
Currently, there is not any proposal written that a journeyman or any other trade or certifications that would allow you for an additional incentive pay or retention pay. What I would say is those kind of certifications and experience would lead to your experience, skills, knowledge, and abilities and what you contribute into that particular position. So when we begin writing, again, if the vote is affirmative and we go down that road and we begin writing those position descriptions, developing those pay matrices, those things would be aligned appropriately with our current staff. But we look at our current staff and then we also have to then create that same model for then new staff. So we would attempt to eliminate a lot of the salary compression in which that individual user might be leading to.
One up in the back.
Has there been any talk or discussion within the HR department? Are we going to start over with the evaluations? Are they going to be rewritten now that we are redoing position descriptions?
The committee did talk quite a bit about the evaluations, and that subcommittee recommended that they adopt and utilize one that the unclassified body currently is using, so it will need to be modified a little bit. But though the evaluations would be an in-house evaluation, and those evaluations would be administered this next year, and then merit raises would be based on your evaluation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. In terms of future evaluations, one of the things that I would ask the classified Senate to do is, as we move forward, is if the evaluation the first year is perceived to have big holes in it, not be working well, missing something, that they should recommend up a change in the evaluation procedure. I'm doing that this year with the unclassified staff, where there was a feeling that the unclassified staff evaluations weren't working as well as they would like them to. And what I asked them to do then was to give me a proposal that would allow them to feel as though the evaluations were fair and reasonable, and then I can vet those and make sure that there isn't anything in them that creates a problem. If there is, then we'll go back to the unclassified Senate and raise those questions and ask them to consider or reconsider. Generally speaking, when you're in a university, the way these things work is you want your constituent organizations to feel as though they're being treated reasonably. And so I tend to use the Senates as the places for those kind of conversations. And obviously we get an HR review, we get a legal review to make sure that we're not doing anything either outside law or out of reasonable practice in HR. But these can be modified if they are not working as we would have them work. That's all part of that alignment issue that I was raising earlier. But the mechanism for that would be what is currently called a classified Senate.
I would add to that as a part and through this committee, we talked not only about the evaluation forms and the particular form and what the content of the forms hold, but we also talked about best practices of how to give an evaluation, how best practices of a supervisor evaluating one's work, and we have committed to developing trainings for individuals, not only how to complete the form, but also best practices in evaluating work and providing feedback in an effective manner.
If we make this switch, I'm just curious, is there going to open up some money for different, I know we're talking about wages and vacations and things like that, but there's also issues with like we don't have enough equipment for certain departments, we're short 4 scooters, so we've got people riding with each other and in the paint. You know, this job may be a big job, or this job will only take 30 minutes, and so you got people walking back and forth and all this.
Sure.
Then when it comes to the maintenance, you're afraid to give up your scooter when you're already 3 scooters down for them to maintenance it, because sometimes it may take 2 or 3 weeks. So now you take 9 people trying to share 3 scooters, and it gets a little monotonous sometimes.
I understand what you're saying. That won't be impacted by this vote one way or another. The core issue that you're mentioning is that our base budget we made a number of decisions as a university. When we went into the state system, our state grant was not increased to the level that some other state grants were. And so our state grant aid has lagged some of the other schools. We also made an internal determination to keep our tuition down to provide access to students. And well, if you're writing a check for yourself or a kid in school, it doesn't feel like that tuition is low. It is. It is much lower than our peers. And third is we made the decision not to grow the university. And so when you take those 3 decisions together, inflation keeps going up, but your money doesn't. And what it means is you don't have the money to pay at a reasonable level, you don't have the money to staff at a reasonable level, and you don't have the money to replace equipment, expand equipment at a reasonable level. And so you end up making do and wearing out. And we're at a stage as a university where we're trying to move away from that. That's why I'm pushing the enrollment growth issue that I'm pushing, not because I just think it's cool to grow enrollment. That isn't the issue. The issue to me is what are we trying to accomplish? What does it take to accomplish it? And how do you get that done? And part of it is you got to have more educated people, and part of it is you have to have the money to educate them. And so that's what the enrollment growth issue is about. I'm making a very concerted effort with our regions to understand what our funding looks like compared to either other schools in state or what our funding looks like compared to other institutions nationally that are accomplishing what we've been asked to accomplish. And so that's what we're doing. That's why I'm talking about the salaries and talking about those things. But the answer is that in the end we will have to deal with those questions by growing enrollment, by finding new sources of revenue, by finding ways of generating income that allow us to get the equipment we need, the buildings we need, etc.
We've had another online question. Will there be uniformity in policies and procedures between any or all Board of Regents universities?
It's my understanding that each one has done this separately, and so I don't see the regents imposing a uniform policy across all 6 campuses. the campuses are quite different and their needs are quite different. You know, we look a lot more like K-State than we do any other school in terms of our distribution of programs, our activities, but of course then they have the whole agriculture side that we don't have at all. So I don't see that coming up from the Regents. That wouldn't mean they wouldn't have some minimum standards for policies, but I think anything that we propose here would more than exceed any minimum standards they would put in place. Have we worn you out?
Will we continue to have the holiday shutdown, or are you going to make us?
As far as I know, yes. That doesn't have anything to do with this vote.
Okay.
That can be found on page 6 of the white papers at the very top of that page.
I think the holiday shutdown is good for everybody. At that point, I think we all need it. If there's nothing else, let me just finish up. Sure. Whatever you would. Absolutely. Now, I think it's really important that a couple of things be said. Number one, it's important that you vote your conscience. If you're for the change, vote for it. If you're against the change, vote against it. Vote your conscience. It's also important for you to understand, regardless of what the vote turns out, I think it's actually crucial that you understand that I and others know we don't operate as a university without you. You are extremely important to this school. And we're going to try to continue to build the institution in a way that makes your work as positive an experience as we can, that rewards you as fairly as we can, and that continues to move toward achieving our goals. Some of you drive around campus. I see a lot of the vehicles out here look like a used Daihatsu lot. Many times, if I catch your eye, I wave to you. And the reason for that is to simply say to you, I know you're there, I know you're doing your job, and I care about the fact that you're there. This is important to you, it is important to us. But the bottom line is we want you to vote your conscience, and we want you to understand what you're voting on. So we're very happy to provide any information I can. Sometimes the real answer is I don't know yet. Because I can't predict the future. I don't know what the Regents are going to do next year or the year after. But we'll try to be straight on that. As we progress, if in fact the vote goes to change systems, then there will be hiccups. There's no questions there will be. And we'll use our, what's currently called the Unclassified Senate and our HR folks and others to figure out how to smooth those out and make it work better. And that is what we do every day in this organization. So thank you for all of the hard work. I know what it takes. I mentioned to the last group that part of my adjustment to Wichita was that the lady who maintained Neff Hall, a woman named Mrs. Mulman, I worked a lot in the evenings, and when she was there, she would stop and chat with me and made me feel like it was okay to be here. A really nice lady. And my wife will tell you the same thing. She used to do that with her when my wife was a student here. So I do have a different sense maybe of what your role is on the campus. But thank you for all your hard work, and thank you for taking time today to come and to make sure that you understood what you were voting on.
We'll go ahead and stay up here if you've got any questions that you didn't want to ask in front of the group. I know sometimes that happens, but we'll be up here for the next few minutes if there's more questions you'd like to ask on a personal basis. Thank you.
Thank you.